Hello, and welcome to my presentation for Master of Higher Education class EDHE7880 Policy Perspectives in Higher Education. This is for Module 0, the Introductory Module. The agenda for the introductory forum will consist of a brief introduction and my administrative experience so far in my career, policy issues or challenges I've encountered in my position or work, a discussion to answer is higher education a public good or private good, a discussion to answer what role should the federal or state government play in higher education policy, a discussion of what I would like to learn in this class as my learning objectives, and final, what I would like to possibly explore for my final project. Now I will provide a brief introduction of my past and current administrative experience. My name is Regina Johntony. In my past work before OU, I was an accountant in a CPA firm in Columbus, Ohio for several years. I have worked at Ohio University for 27 years, and all of my jobs at Ohio University have been as an accountant or using my accounting skills. I started as an accounting manager in the accounts receivable office, located in the Bursar's office. Next, I was the Assistant Financial Affairs Administrator in the College of Medicine, where I managed the College of Medicine's budgets and expenses. After that, for 12 years, I was on the Enterprise System Project Implementation Team, where I was part of many accounting software implementations, for instance, Oracle Financial System. I helped test the systems, wrote training manuals, and offered hundreds of training classes in the computer labs. Since 2015, I've been the Director of Finance at the Voinovich School. I have 5 accountants on my team, and we all report to the CFAO. We manage operating foundation and grant accounts and ensure compliance in our spending according to university, federal, state, and sponsor guidelines. For 10 years, I've been an instructor in the Freshman Learning Community course. I took off this fall, since last fall, with my large workload, my master's classes, and teaching that course was very time consuming, and I felt like I didn't have enough time to do all of it. But I'm only taking this year off. I'm going to go back again next year. I love teaching more than any other job I've ever had. I love the interaction with my students, and for the last 8 years of my learning community course has been with education students. Now I will discuss some policy issues or challenges I have encountered in my position or work at a high university. In my most recent 7 years, especially in my finance role at the Voinovich School, higher education spending and state appropriations to higher education institutions surfaces to the top. Higher education affordability and financial aid providing more access to marginalized students, more student headcount, and more money for Ohio University. The low birth rates in the past 2 decades equals lower population of high school seniors enrolling in higher education, and those high school seniors, in the past several years, there are fewer of them attending four-year institutions and instead opting for trade schools or jobs, in part due to the economy. The more recent economic state makes it even harder for low to middle income families to afford college, let alone basic needs. Lower state appropriations to higher education and lower enrollment means higher education must find ways to cut costs. 2 years ago, there were many jobs terminated at Ohio University. All employees were fearful for our jobs, our livelihood, our health benefits. Terminated academic support administrators, student service administrators, and faculty means less support to students, faculty teaching more students, faculty providing more support during office hours, and faculty grading more assignments, all threatening the quality of our product, the education. Many higher education policies impact my role as an instructor in the Freshman Learning Community class. All classes moved online in fall of 2021. My Freshman Learning Community class was an online class. This class usually involves registering students for at least 2 or 3 other classes along with the Learning Community class, with the goal for students to form relationships, become members of the student community, and overall increase freshman retention. Part of the class involved out-of-class activities, pizza parties, attending sporting events, cultural or community events, going to movies, hay rides, pumpkin carving, dances, all of the out-of-class activities could not occur in a virtual atmosphere. There were some virtual out-of-class fun activities, but these didn't have the same impact as in-person events. Policies directly impacting my role as an instructor of a student course and my day-to-day interactions with students include affordability policies, policies on diversity, sexual assault, racism, marginalized students, LGBTQ students, sexism, DACA. During our diversity class last semester, we learned about the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, immigration policy, and the possible removal of those rights for existing and future students. I read and wrote about DACA student groups at OSU and other universities fighting for and supporting those rights to continue their education and for future education support of immigrant students. Every spring and summer before fall semester, the learning community staff require many hours of training in diversity, sexual assault, bystander intervention and reporting, amongst other things. We learn about support services to review and recommend to our classes, including counseling and psychological services, academic support services such as tutoring and writing labs. We also review with our students health and nutrition, time planning for study, recreation, and sleep, methods of studying, note-taking, test preparation, etc. So the learning community instructors learn about how to help students with disabilities that may need accommodations and referral resources. We also spend considerable time on mental health, wellness, and review support services to our students. An important part of our class involves recommending students to use student development and resources available to them, like the math tutoring and Allen Student Help Center. Working with students involves all policies impacting students and the challenges that arise for each individual student. Amongst many challenges, and working with many marginalized students, a specific challenge I encountered in my learning community class are commuter students from this area. Freshman commuter students are usually driving from home up to 45 miles away. They usually have a job outside of campus. They may have car problems. They are not on campus to easily attend events. They cannot simply walk back to their dorm after attending an event or late night studying with a group. They don't live in a dorm, so are less likely to form relationships as easily as on-campus students. They don't eat in the dining halls. They often bring their own packed lunches and eat by themselves. The Learning Community Office does have resources in place and requires us as instructors to kind of stay connected with our commuter students and ensure that they stay connected with their peers and to ensure they don't fall behind and stay in college. I'm saying all this to say that all the higher education policies that I mentioned that impact students also impact and challenge my job, and the learning community does a great job in training us as instructors so that we can better help our students. But of course, some of our training and some of the money that comes to help the students are also coming from higher education policies. Is higher education a public good or private good? In my opinion, higher education is both a public and a private good. It is an intersecting circle of value. As a public good, the more citizens that make more money increases the tax base, which increases support of all our public and social services like police, fire, roads, Medicaid, senior citizen programs, disability programs, counseling and mental health services, and higher education, amongst other services. Higher income citizens improve the economy by buying more, including supporting local vendors in their local community. More college graduates also feel a dire need to fill the job market with well-educated workers. Higher education teaches students citizenship, volunteerism, diversity, and leadership to give back to our communities. Volunteerism enhances the livelihood of our communities through support and community exchange. Citizenship enhances the community's local and state governments, for example, school boards, city councils, and they're populated with an educated and diverse population of citizens. Leadership contributes to all aspects of lives for work teams, volunteer teams, public and political groups, school boards, etc. As non-diverse college students engage with a diverse student and faculty population, They are exposed to more diverse people, culture, ideas, and are more ready for a current diverse world. College students that were involved in contributing to faculty and scholarly research or their own research enhances the livelihood of all citizens in enhancements to medical devices, health research and health procedures, information technology, engineering, machinery, and all industry. As a private good, higher education has intrinsic value for a college graduate, that the graduate succeeded in college, finds a job in a career of interest, and it can be fulfilling, helping build confidence, pride, and happiness. We learned in one of our past semester courses that college graduates read more to their children, are more active in their children's education and support, and oftentimes expect their children to attend college. So the circle continues. Their family increases their chances of financial stability, and the public and community also benefit. Higher education can also increase the financial stability of an individual, and as they may or may not have a family, they will probably buy a house, be able to afford vacations, send their children to summer camps and to college, and finally result in a better retirement. Gareth Williams wrote an article titled Higher Education, Public Good or Private Commodity in April of 2016. In this article, he claims that, quote, the arguments on both sides are essentially about finance and concludes that neither public monopoly nor unrestricted market competition are by themselves ways providing the best higher education for all, end quote. Williams 2016 states that economists also support the significant contribution of college graduates to economic growth, both because most graduates became more productive than they would have been otherwise, and as a result of the contribution of university research to improved economic efficiency through technological and organizational advance. Also in this article, Williams 2016 highlights benefits of a higher education to both private and public good. Williams 2016 states that economists also support the significant contribution of college graduates to economic growth, quote, both because most graduates become more productive than they would have been otherwise, and a result of the contribution of university research to improved economic efficiency through technological and organizational advance, end quote. Williams 2016 reported from research individual benefits of higher education that, quote, bring a wider social as well as individual benefits, end quote. These benefits include higher lifetime incomes, greater life satisfaction, longer life expectancy with greater engagement of preventive health care, better mental health, lower consumption of alcohol and tobacco, less likelihood of obesity, less criminality, and greater propensity to vote and to volunteer. What role should the federal or state government play in higher education policy? In my opinion, I am torn on this question. I'm hoping that after this class I will have a better idea of how higher education policies are initiated, debated, and voted into law, otherwise policymaking. Right now, I think federal and state government should play a part in higher education policy only if either entities are providing appropriations to higher education institutions and assuming the policies have the best intentions of the student in mind. Public tax dollars are usually some of the source of state appropriations to higher education institutions, and federal financial aid provides a large portion of financial aid to higher education students. Therefore, the public should have a small role in higher education policy, but I'm not sure how you involve the public except for the public voting for their political representatives that market their intentions during their campaigns. I asked what entity will represent our existing diverse community to enable access to all populations and make higher education affordable or provide aid to marginalized students. My hopes are that the federal and state governments, many of which want higher education for all, will be representative of the diverse community and their needs to access higher education. However, higher education institutions should play a major role in higher education policy. After all, the students are the customers of the higher education institutions, and higher education institutions should know or learn how to address many of the issues and concerns of all students. Higher education institutions will know their students, or should know their students and their students' issues from their firsthand experience with them. Higher education institutions can advocate the best for marginalized students and student issues across their campuses, some of which may not be known to federal and state governments. I am in this class to learn any and all information possible on higher education policies and policymaking. In the past 6 courses during this master's program, we have discussed specific higher education policies, but we have not learned about the policymaking process. I think, personally, along with the research class, this may be such a foundational class that it should be offered during the first semester as well as the research class. I want to learn how much of a role that other entities other than higher education institutions and federal and state government have in higher education policymaking. I know there are government liaisons and lobbyists that usually form from private groups or political groups. However, I don't know how much of an influence those groups have on policymaking. I would like to know how much persuasion these groups may have in influencing overall policymaking. Once I learn more about the policymaking process and analyzing policies, I want to then understand how current and future higher education policies directly impact Ohio University students, faculty, and staff to understand the impact, especially on our students. Last, I would like to understand more about how higher education policies can and will provide more college access to marginalized populations. For my final project, I actually like 3 options the best and feel that I can better decide after 3 or 4 weeks of learning more on higher education policy making. I really like option 1, developing the board game. At first it seems easier than most of the other options, but after carefully thinking through the assignment, I think it will take a lot of time to creatively pursue the goal of informing and teaching students about the impact of a particular higher education policy. I also like option 3, the policy brief, and option 4, the contemporary analysis of the current literature on a policy issue. For all 3 options, I would like to explore either higher education policies around higher education funding or for affordability and access. Since my current job involves creating budgets from our revenue of state share of our student head count and expenditures to run the Voinovich goal, I'm very interested in learning background regarding higher education funding from the state level. It may have to involve higher education performance-based funding policies, because I'm not sure what kind of policies, actual policies, are out there about higher education funding. On the other hand, I'm also interested about learning more about higher education affordability and access policies, since I believe this is so crucial for the future of college access for all in America. If I had to pick one today, I'd probably pick option 3, the policy brief, but if we're allowed to change our mind, or if we're allowed to decide a bit later, then I might take that option. Thank you very much.